So let's go ahead, get into this second segment. So Roger Goodell, the commissioner for the NFL, he reiterated the possibility of the regular season expanding to an 18-game regular season at some point in the future. Appearing on the David Rubenstein show, Goodell said that adding an 18th game would be the logical next step for the league, and he explained the framework of the season would remain 20 weeks, with the preseason schedule being reduced from 3 games to 2 games, and we would keep within that 20-game framework. We went to 16-4 and now 17-3, so 18-2 is a logical step. So they're going to keep on going until they can max out in the regular season, format. Now, the way that I see it, I think that this is a bad idea. And I know, a lot of people, they would rather see more football. I'm one of those people that loves football, obviously. And yeah, I wouldn't mind the notion that we would get 18 games as opposed to 17, but you also have to remember that this is a majority of the population that doesn't actually play the sport. Like, how do the people playing the sport feel now that they won't have a little bit of time off, right? I mean, they were expected to play 17 games, and that 17-game task is still a little bit it's a little bit difficult of a task as it is. And the rules and the way that the game has been updated throughout the years, the way that the NFL owners have completely changed the game from what it was now to what it was back then, are implementing rules that keep players safer. Like, that's usually been the trend of the NFL. Like, whenever something is seen as a little bit too dangerous, then they try to fix it so that way their players can stay healthy. I don't think this move really encourages NFL players to stay healthy, because it's, like I said, it's already difficult trying to play in every single NFL game, despite the fact that they're usually separated by a week. Like, being able to stay healthy for one extra game is something that not many NFL players can say that they can do consistently. And combined with the new kickoff rules, if we do end up seeing a regular season that's 18 games, then I don't think this kickoff rule is going to go away, right? Because the whole point of this kickoff rule was to prevent anybody from getting injured. Granted, it was I think it was very ignorant how they changed the rules, allowing teams, forcing teams to tell the ref and the other team that they're going to attempt an onside kick. So everybody in the room knows that they're going to do an onside kick, making them better prepared and things like that. Like, stopping that rule change is probably one of the most absurd rule changes I've ever seen in the NFL. Like, probably the most absurd rule change, because surprise onside kicks were a major part of the NFL, and some of the greatest comebacks ended up starting from surprise onside kicks and onside kick recoveries. Now that the NFL team, the receiving team, is much more prepared to handle the onside kick, it essentially makes the kicks feel a little bit meaningless in a lot of the fan base's eyes. So if the kickoff rules, if they turn back to the way that they were and they kept this 17-game format, I think a lot more people would be more interested in that as opposed to adding another game, because again, you're just asking for your players to get injured at that point. When you're asking them to just add another week onto the schedule. Not only that, but this also does something else that a lot of fans don't really like. It somewhat changes the record books. So, I mean, as we know, the NFL, they would add games as the years go on. So before, it was a 16-game format. That was the norm. Then the 17-game format became the norm. And once the 17-game format became the norm, because NFL players were granted an extra day to accumulate total stats, a lot of the NFL, the previous NFL record holders ended up being no more because, I mean, Drew Brees ended up recording like, I want to say around 5,000 total yards in a season, but this was on a 16-game format. So once Patrick Mahomes played in a 17-game format, he immediately broke that record. Then there was also the NFL rushing record, which could have easily been broken if Saquon had played the entirety of the last game. All of these records that were previously held by NFL legends are now being broken by players that benefit from having an extra game. And that gets, I don't know why it gets a lot of fans a little bit angry, but it's like every single time I look at a social media post of somebody breaking a record, then they try to put an imaginary asterisk on it saying this was an extended season with 17 games and it wasn't a regular 16-game format, blah, 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 all that stuff. But even though the collective bargaining agreement runs through the 2030 season, there is a hope that an expanded schedule should be implemented before the expiration date. NFLPA Executive Director Lloyd Howell told Mark Mask of the Washington Post on July that the league and union started high-level talks about an 18-game regular season, and he did caution that there are a lot of details that would need to be ironed out, including economic, health, and safety matters. So I already, highlighted how the safety could already be seen as an issue, adding an extra game. But nearly 60% of the respondents said that they oppose an 18-game schedule. The responding largely revolved around player health and safety, because again, that's like the most important thing when you are trying to come up with new rules in the NFL. You need to make sure that those implementations are safe and they don't end up hurting your best players, because your best players are essentially the people that make you money. Like, you don't want a star quarterback getting hurt, because then you end up losing a lot of money both as a franchise and as a league. And because because players barely make it through week 17, adding a week 18, we don't know what type of implications, they'll have long term, one player said. Because you'll see guys have high use one year, the next year they battle injuries. Physically, I think it's too much, and I know from the standpoint of the NFL, they see the money, but they're going to lose a lot of star players to injuries. And some players in the poll did say they would be okay with an extra game if it meant the NFL gave teams a second bye week during the regular season. And Goodell didn't specify in his Bloomberg interview if the second bye was something that's on the table, but he did say in October that's something that the league would look at, and a lot of that depends on, can the league continue to make the game safer? Can the league continue to modify the way that they conduct the offseason, as well as the training camp, and as well as, the regular season, so that these guys feel comfortable being able to play for that long of a period of time. So those are all the that's all the news that we have in regards to the NFL changing its regular season format. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you guys would be excited for an 18-game regular season, or maybe you guys wouldn't be all that excited for an 18-game regular season. Maybe you would rather see the kickoff rules go back to the way that they were. Let me know in the comments what rule change you'd like to see in the NFL. So now we're going to go into the third segment, where I do a quick playoff preview of the NFL games that are going to go down over this weekend. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.